This video will guide you through 8 steps needed to write a recruiting services agreement. Recruiting services agreement drafting is a frequently requested service on the Contracts Council platform, since both businesses and recruiters want to ensure they are legally protected when engaging in recruitment services. If you need to write a recruiting services agreement, this video is for you. Before we start, just a brief disclaimer. The following information is provided for educational purposes and in no way constitutes legal advice. For legal advice, we encourage you to consult a licensed attorney. You can find more information in the description, along with a link to find an attorney. We will cover the purpose of recruiting services agreements, key terms to include in your document, and 8 steps to follow to write your agreement. We've also added a link below with information on lawyer pricing if you want to know the cost of hiring a lawyer. Now let's get started. Purpose of recruiting services agreements. Recruiting services agreements are legally binding documents that outline the terms and conditions under which recruiting services will be provided. The purpose of these agreements is to clearly define the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of both the recruiter and the client, protect the rights of both parties, and ensure mutual understanding of the recruitment process. Some reasons why using a recruiting services agreement is important are as follows. 1. They provide a clear agreement of service terms and conditions. 2. They protect both the recruiter's and client's rights. 3. They lessen the possibility of disputes. 4. They ensure compliance with employment laws. And 5. They safeguard against potential liabilities and risks. What to include in your recruiting services agreement? There are common sections included in recruiting services agreements. Here are some you will find and want to include. 1. Scope of services. This section details the specific recruiting services that will be provided, including the types of positions to be filled and the methods of recruitment. 2. Compensation. This section specifies the payment terms, including fees, payment schedule, and any additional expenses. 3. Term and termination. This section outlines the duration of the agreement and the conditions under which it can be terminated by either party. 4. Responsibilities of the parties. This section defines the responsibilities of both the recruiter and the client, such as providing job descriptions and timely payment. 5. Candidate ownership. This section clearly states how long the recruiter has the rights to claim ownership over candidates presented to the client. 6. Confidentiality. This section protects any confidential information shared during the recruitment process and outlines the obligations of the parties. 7. Indemnification. This section specifies how the parties will handle any losses arising from the recruitment services provided. 8. Warranties and representations. This section includes any statements of fact that the parties are making about the services or the recruitment process. And 9. Dispute resolution. This details the procedure the parties can take in the event of a dispute. 8 steps to writing a recruiting services agreement. Here is a list of 8 steps you can follow to draft your recruiting services agreement. 1. Review the commonly used clauses discussed earlier in this video or find a template online to use as a reference. This will allow you to know what to include. 2. Identify the key information you want to include in your agreement. This may include details about the scope of services, compensation, and candidate ownership. 3. It is critical to use clear and concise language that both parties can understand. 4. Once you've written your sections, organize them so that they are logical. For example, you likely want to have the scope of services section come before the compensation section. 5. Be sure to incorporate any applicable employment laws and regulations that may be specific to your state or industry. Note this may require research. 6. If you are unsure about anything, consider using Contracts Council's platform to seek advice from an experienced business lawyer. We have included a link in the description to help you find one. 7. Review and revise the agreement to make the language clearer and confirm you have included everything needed. And 8. Create a single document to serve as your recruiting services agreement and ensure both parties have access to it. Drafting a recruiting services agreement is a vital step in protecting both the recruiter and the client in a recruitment relationship. If you need help from an experienced lawyer, feel free to search Contracts Counsel or visit contractscounsel.com and post a job to get quotes from lawyers to help you. Thanks for watching.